I am a caremaker, my name's Dawn, and I'm also a student midwife. I'm in my third year at Southbank University, so not too far from here. And I've been in the NHS for about 5 years now. I worked as a care assistant before I started my midwifery training. So I've seen from lots of different aspects, and like most of us, I've had my own experiences of the healthcare system as well. Sorry, I will stop shaking in a minute, sorry. I've written a speech and somehow it doesn't really seem fitting after what we've heard so far. I was thinking this morning on my way in about my dad who had bowel cancer. Thankfully he survived. And the first time I really accessed healthcare as a relative, and unfortunately I'm going to be a little bit negative. I went to visit him and after his operation, and his morphine drip had run out, and he's pressing the button like there's no tomorrow, and obviously there was nothing coming. It was beeping, and his fluids had run out. His catheter bag was full, and I didn't know who to go to. I didn't know who his nurse was. There was nobody had introduced themselves to me for the 4 hours that I had been there, and I left that day feeling. I eventually found somebody and they sorted out his morphine and his drips and all the rest of it. But it took about an hour of my dad in quite severe pain before somebody would eventually listen to the call bell ringing and ringing and ringing. It's a sound I think you become immune to when you're on the ward. You sort of hear it all the time. Eventually somebody did come, but nobody had introduced themselves. I didn't know who was looking after him, and it was really sad because this was my daddy, and he was in a lot of pain and there was nothing I could do, and he wouldn't let me stroke his hand because, don't stroke my hand, we don't do that kind of thing. So it was really hard, but I mean, that was one day, and, he survived a care in the community, was fantastic. And he's here, so, all's well that ends well, I suppose, but just a reminder, I suppose, that man is somebody's dad, that woman is somebody's mum, and that was my dad, and it was really difficult. I've calmed down enough now. I can read my speech. I feel really privileged to be a student midwife. I wanted to be one for a long time, and I never thought I was clever enough. I always had a sense of justice and kindness. I worked in childcare before I came into the healthcare setting, and never ever felt clever enough, but somehow had this innate sense that I might be able to do something, I might be good at it if somebody would just give me the opportunity, and I eventually was able to become a student midwife and able to interact with women and families during such a significant moment in their lives. That moment, that new baby is born, you've got a new family, a new life, it's incredible. And women are exceptionally strong in that moment, but I think it would also be fair to say that they're also exceptionally vulnerable and frightened, and we have a lot of responsibility as midwives and obstetricians to respect the women that we care for and empower and not disempower them in the things that we say and how we treat them. And I feel that sometimes compassion can be overlooked. As demand on our healthcare service increases, as the piles of paperwork grow, staff morale, it can be easy to forget those very small moments where we can make a real difference, where care goes beyond the clinical to the personal, to a human level. Nobody ever goes to work, I hope, to be unkind. But I think sometimes you can, as the Francis report demonstrated, you can become accustomed to things being a certain way. And often it isn't until you have a moment or an event or an incident, and suddenly your your viewpoint changes. And sorry, I'm going to be a little bit negative again, but that moment for me was a really challenging experience. I won't go into what it was. It was, it's still quite difficult to talk about, but I was horrified, I was heartbroken, I was saddened, I was disillusioned, all of the words that you can think of, by the care that I saw being witnessed, and the care I witnessed being given, and my role in and how I reacted to in that moment in care that you never wish on anybody. And there were a lot of tears, years. But I also knew that then out of that came a desire to really want to do better and to be better as a student midwife, as a woman, as a sister, but also just as a person. I really felt that somehow something good had to come out of it, and that for me became being a caremaker. And I think a lot of us come together, perhaps not out of a negative experience, but wanting to do something better. And it was logical. It made sense to me once I discovered what it was. I thought, oh, hurrah! This is where I'm meant to be. For a very individual level, it was about making a difference to me in the way that I was every day, the things that I believed in. It was about finding other people that think the way that I do. But also I knew that I needed to try and turn that negative experience into something positive, and do what I could to try and make changes. So I've been really lucky. I've been able to attend events like today and other conferences and workshops. I've spoken to students at my university, and use social media as a platform to engage. And hopefully, as our Caremaker family grows, then the platform and the scope to do that becomes even wider. But I think it's also about, when we talk about compassion in care, it's also reflected in the way that we treat each other. And the compassion doesn't just mean, mother to midwife or midwife to mother, or nurse to patient, but actually it's colleague to colleague, mentor to student, student to lecturer. I've been, incredibly lucky to have fantastic support from my tutors and lecturers, and their professionalism and kindness doesn't seem to, maybe behind closed doors, doesn't seem to waver, no matter the struggles and the pressures, and they really inspire me to carry on, because it hasn't been easy. I think this has probably been the most challenging 3 years that I've gone through, and the other 22 haven't been easy either, but it's been a real challenge, and I'm hoping that through being a caremaker, attending events like today and getting to meet people who recognise the importance of compassion in care, that I can hopefully do the same as well for the students and the staff that I work with in the future. So just to finish, I think it's worth remembering, if we were all inpatients, that we would want to be treated kindly and competently by staff who can communicate openly and aware of their own limitations, and about recognising, that adage of, the courage to change the things that you can change, and accepting that there are some things that you can't. Not that I'm an alcoholic, but that that really rings true. It was on our fridge as a child. My mother's quite a fan of the inspirational saying, and I think that actually does begin with us on an individual level, who you are when you walk onto the ward at 8 o'clock in the morning, and do you leave at 8 o'clock in the evening as the same person that you wanted to be? Have you done what you set out to achieve? Have you thanked that really helpful healthcare assistant who was there when you needed her? Have you said, I'm so sorry for your loss, and really meant it? Have you, making a cup of tea? We were talking before about making a cup of tea. It's such a British thing to do. It's such a small gesture. But I think, just to finish by saying, a culture of compassion and candour doesn't materialise overnight, and it begins on an individual level. And for me, that meant becoming a caremaker and accepting the things that I can change and the things that I can't, and having the courage actually to challenge a lot of the things that I really wish that I could change. And being a part of events like today and being given a whole 5 minutes to waffle on really, really makes a difference. So thank you very much.
So hello, my name is Liz Reed. I'm a second year mental health nursing student at the University of Greenwich and a very proud caremaker. I came into nursing in a roundabout sort of way, but I started working for the NHS back in 2010 as a healthcare support worker on a female acute psychiatric ward in Southampton. It was there that I quickly learnt that I'd found a job which I fell in love with, and I'd set my heart on becoming a nurse. It was with the help of my very supportive family and partner that I managed to move to London in 2012 to follow my ambition and to start my studies. I really believe that living in the capital has provided me with the opportunity to meet a diverse and really inspirational group of people that have encouraged and supported me in my determination to become a caring and compassionate nurse. And I therefore feel very honoured to be given the opportunity to be here today amongst a lot of people that share my enthusiasm for compassion in practice. I believe that demonstrating compassion in practice can be something as simple as a cheerful hello to the patients when I start the shift and ensuring that I say goodbye before I leave. It can be in offering a cup of tea or a genuine smile and a friendly listening ear to a patient that's just been admitted to a ward. And it can be in feeling able to comfort a mother through learning that her daughter has made a serious attempt to take her own life. As a mental health nursing student, I work with a huge variety of people that span a wide age groups, and I work in an environment that can often be very challenging. I have found that the very essence of the Compassion in Practice nursing vision and each of the 6 Cs has not only been able to enhance the care that I'm able to provide, but also the way I feel when I leave work at the end of a day, and at the end of a good shift, but maybe even more importantly, at the end of the bad shifts too. I wouldn't be able to stand here and choose my favourite of the 6 Cs, as I think they're all vital and just as important as each other. However, the one that I think is very important to recognise within mental health care is courage, which has been mentioned a lot today. As a mental health nurse, I will always need to ensure that I have the courage to advocate for a patient's best interests, especially at times when they may not be able to advocate for themselves. I will need to ensure that I have the courage to provide a patient with all available information to promote autonomy, even if I'm worried that they're going to make an unwise decision. And I will need to have the courage to have open, honest, and often very difficult conversations with people to ensure that I help them to make the wise decisions and that they feel safe, supported, and empowered in their journey towards recovery. I heard a quote a few months ago that has really highlighted what compassion means to me. It was Pema Chodron that said, "Compassion becomes real when we recognise our shared humanity." Although it seems obvious now, hearing that really made it clear to me that compassion is universal. We all have a common ground. We all have feelings and emotions that are alike. We all have a shared humanity. I think this is particularly important to recognise within mental health care, as sometimes I have to work with patients that have committed crimes, that have done things that I find it very difficult to relate to or don't necessarily agree with. But having an understanding of that shared humanity ensures that compassion is always possible. And lastly, I like to think of compassion in practice as a patchwork quilt. And I can see the potential that this quilt has to be something truly beautiful and durable. I see the different individuals, teams and services that make up the NHS and make up healthcare as a whole as the squares of a massive variety of materials, and the energy and enthusiasm that we have in working together, united with a vision such as this, as the strong thread that holds it all together. So I'd just like to say thank you very much for having me here today. I hope that everybody enjoys the day and gets an awful lot out of it. And I'd just like to remind everyone that as caremakers, we'll be around to speak to everyone. I'm happy to answer any questions, and we have a standout in the foyer, so come along and have a chat with us anytime.
Thanks very much to Elizabeth and Dawn, and really appreciated. And as Elizabeth said, do talk to the caremakers, chat to them over coffee, visit their stall, and yeah, thank you very much again. And I think that image of the quilt's going to stay with me for a while. Really good.